Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software Greatech Group. You're invited to join our conversation to model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation adventure of this great industry. My guest today is Matthew Smith. He is an expert in construction technology with a focus on construction finance. As the CEO and Chief Compliance Officer at Truss, a leading banking platform for construction businesses, he drives industry innovation. Leveraging his extensive expertise in technology and finance, Matthew has successfully assisted numerous construction businesses in transitioning from traditional payment methods to streamlined digital systems. His deep knowledge of construction FinTech positions him as a valuable resource for construction professionals seeking to optimize their financial operations. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thanks so much for that intro, Todd. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Excited to have this conversation with you. So first, I like to kind of level set of how people got into the industry. So what's kind of your origin story into construction?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not, I actually haven't spent too much time on the tools. I would say no time at all. I don't know if I instantly lose respect from some of the listeners for not spending any time on the tools, but the group of friends that I grew up with all ended up in construction, and a couple of them own their own construction businesses. I took a different path and I studied software engineering in university. And I guess just through the nature of them being, my close friends, they sort of looked at me and said, hey, our entire business is archaic and, here's all the things we're doing right now. I'm running and picking up checks. Like, what can you do? And so essentially that's how I got into it, is just through the people I knew, and basically used my software engineering skills to build them better financial tools. And that's kind of how I got started. Along the way, I've learned way more than I thought I would about construction, which is exciting. Didn't think I would end up here when I started my computer science journey.
Yeah. Well, happy accidents into construction are A-okay. You're in good company. With that, I'm a happy accident into construction as well too. And I love that it's the people that really brought you into construction. It's not necessarily how I got pulled in, but that's what really kept me and gave me passion for the industry, is that the people that are here, I think are really top notch. So that's awesome. What are some of the kind of most significant challenges that you've seen construction companies face when they're trying to adopt this, new digital workflow instead of kind of the way they've always done it? And then how can they overcome those challenges?
So I was trying to think my initial thought was pricing and access to technology. And there's a bunch of different answers here, but I think it comes back to people. I think some of the biggest challenges in construction is that the entire thing is relationship based. And if your stakeholders, even if you want to adopt digital technology, if the stakeholders that you're working with don't want to adopt, or they're archaic, there's not much you can do, right? Like, you're kind of stuck because everybody's stuck, right? Yeah. Like, we all, I'm sure you have those sub trades or whatever. They're like, sometimes they want cash, or, they refuse to take anything but checks. And it kind of forces you, even though you want to innovate and you want to be more efficient, the practices of the other businesses that you interact with almost like force you to not be able to, which is a massive, massive pain. I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is how do you convincing, yourself to do it. It's obvious you're convinced, but then you now have to convince all these stakeholders that, maybe are retiring in a few years and don't care, which I've heard numerous times. So I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah. So how do you overcome it? How do you find those champions that or like-minded people throughout the industry to help kind of get over the hurdle of the change management?
Yeah, so I think from a technology perspective, we're trying to build towards being able to handle both. So how can we build the technology so that you can help those other people transition to off of paper, but also it still supports the paper so that you don't run into this massive pain. So like some of the feedback we hear often is like, okay, I'm going to use this digital solution, but what happens for the people that just refuse to use this digital solution? How do I still innovate and make my business more efficient? But also having to deal with those people that don't want to innovate. So, I mean, obviously you can share with them all the efficiencies that you're gaining from the applications you're using. But at the same time, you still need those applications. Like when we're building, we still need those applications to work with the people that just refuse to innovate. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What I'm hearing is kind of take it the step by step. Don't, the old adage of don't eat the elephant all in one bite.
Yeah.
Take
Yeah.
it piecemeal, and then kind of scale it out from there as you start getting that buy-in and people excited about it. You can take an incremental approach.
Yeah, and I mean, like an example of that is collecting money today, right? So if we took like a remodeler or a custom home builder, typically they're getting payments from a homeowner. If they have to go and pick up checks from every homeowner, they're driving over to pick up the check, or the homeowner's mailing to them. It's extremely inefficient. They don't even realize how inefficient it is until they start doing digital. But customers that start using our system to collect payment, they're not always getting like 100%. Actually, I don't think anyone has gotten 100% of their customers to, pay digitally. They still sometimes have to collect checks, and that's why our system supports checks. So you can do a check deposit on our system as well as getting digital. So you're not going to be able to convince all your customers to pay on a digital portal, but at least you can still deposit those checks on the same portal and not have to use two systems. I think that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I want to kind of double click in on that. What ways have you seen the transition from the paper based to digital workflows really improve the efficiency and the cost effectiveness in construction finance?
Yeah, I mean, if we take it from like the simplest use case, right? So let's say I'm invoicing a customer, right? I've got to compile all of step one, you've got to like get all let's say it's like subcontractor invoices for a custom home build. I've got to get all the subcontractor invoices. Maybe I'm doing my markup, entering it into my accounting system or my project management system, and then billing the customer. When I'm also waiting for payment, so I get a paper-based payment, maybe I do a check run every month, and I'm walking those checks to the bank. And then I have to like wait for my statement to come in and reconcile it in my accounting system. All of those processes happen over like weeks at a time, as opposed to everything being integrated. So with a paper-based system, let's say it's going to take you a week to compile that information and then finally get the invoice to the customer, another week for the customer to review it and get that paper check to you. As opposed to once I've actually got all the information and I've sent it to the customer can simply just like click a single button. They're taken to a web portal on their phone, enter their banking info, and click pay. And then it automatically reconciles in your accounting system and marks that thing as paid to give you like a more real-time view of how much cash you have, what's paid, what's not paid, as opposed to, right now, I think people are trying to hold all that information in their head of like, okay, I have this check from X vendor. Should I mark that as paid in the accounting system now, or should I wait till I deposit it in the account? I think a lot of those systems are just not talking to each other in real time, and people are trying to hold that information in their head. And I think when you transition to a digital system and everything just happens in real time, there's like this real peace of mind of efficiency that comes out of that. I mean, the feedback we get from customers is like it's night and day, right? Like you go from this chaotic process to a really efficient process. And I know construction industry is broad in the types of business, like the types of jobs that people do. But I think this is probably something that's fairly common across those verticals.
Yeah. Yeah. The pain point exists no matter where. How do you take the kind of that highly personalized touch and pair it with a high-tech platform that may seem to some people that it's kind of taking out the personalization there? How do you strike that balance?
Yeah. So, I mean, our goal is to become the bank for construction companies. So we do want to actually replace your like local credit union or your local community bank. And the way we do it is through relationships. Like we don't discount the fact that we want relationships with the clients. we regularly speak with our clients. Every client that we sign up has kind of like, you could think of it like a personal banker or an account manager, that they have, you have their cell phone number, you can text with them. We're always there for you. I would say that we're much faster at responding and dealing with issues than your regular bank. Even if you think, oh, I have my banker's number and I can go into the thing. Like when there's a real fire issue that you need to maybe like, oh, you need this payment to be faster, or you're trying to pay somebody and it's not working, or something bounced. Like actually getting a hold of your bank is not as simple as you want it to be. But for us, we make that really easy. We make the communication digital, fast, responsive. We've built internal systems to allow our account managers to access the information they need to really quickly to provide you with context when you have an issue. So like, we don't just tout it externally to digitize and like make things more efficient. Like obviously internally we're running our system is really efficient. I mean, we haven't touched on pricing, but the reason we're able to provide such like basically free accounts, we have no fee accounts. We don't charge our clients any fees. Part of the reason why we're able to do that is because we built so many efficiencies internally.
Why stake such a high priority on that personalized touch? Why is that important?
Because I think it's trust, right? Like it's a relationship-based business. There's a lot of trust. I mean, we're doing banking. I think that requires a lot of personalization and trust and relationships. Like even for us personally, like, where I do my banking, sometimes it feels like a black box. I don't know who's there and it doesn't feel trustworthy. And I think that's what we're trying to bring is we're trying to bring that relationship. I think not only that, also how are we supposed to innovate and solve problems and build problems if we don't talk to the customers, right? Like we want to know the feedback. If something's not working, we want to know right away. If we can improve or build the next thing that's going to make your business better, like how we need to talk to you. We need to have a relationship with you to discover that. And so that's why it's so important.
I think it's a great answer. Spot on. Yeah. The relationship leads to the trust. And I love the feedback loop that you talked about there too, that not only are you giving the trust from the client to you vantage point, but you're also able to then innovate to create better tools and create that efficiency and more streamlined process to then help build that trust even more and greater. And then it's just becomes this really cool domino effect.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, it allows us to build things quickly too, right? I remember we signed up a big client recently and they needed some, special permission tier for their sales reps. Essentially their sales reps are on the job site and have to, create invoices really quickly, but they didn't want some of the other permissions that we had built into that tier. And so we were able to, like, in a matter of a few days, quickly just make some tweaks to their setup just because we have that close relationship with them. As opposed to, like, I think your traditional bank you would never dream that your traditional bank would make an adjustment to the software for you in a couple days to better fit your business. Like that would just never happen. But we're able to do that.
Yeah, that's very cool. How has the use of digital tools and software impacted the accuracy and the transparency of the financial reporting within the industry?
Yeah, so I mean, we connect directly into accounting systems. So our goal, like, we don't want to replace your project management software. We don't want to replace your accounting system. We want to push the data to those places as quickly as possible so that you can get up-to-date reports. I think one of the biggest issues right now is that your bank is not connected to those systems. So when you have this real time in your project management software or your accounting system, you're sort of looking at like project budgets from what those things tell you. But then like the actual cash in the bank and like transactions processing and money moving is kind of like the flow into those systems is so delayed that you're kind of juggling in your head, right? Like you're thinking, I don't know if this resonates with anybody, but like, okay, I just got a couple checks from the customer. I've deposited them. I don't know when they're going to clear. Oh, and I just mailed out all the subcontractor payments at the same time. I hope that these clear before these payments, before they go to the bank and deposit. Actually, maybe I'll just text them, say, hey guys, just wait until Friday to cash that check, right? Because I'm waiting
Yeah.
for these other funds to be deposited first. So we remove the need for that. That's just like extra stress, extra work, extra management. We remove that need. We essentially, when customers get paid with our system, we make the funds instantly available. And then obviously we push that information up to the accounting system so that it shows in your accounting system the real-time balances. And then you know right away, okay, I can pay the subcontractors. The subcontractors are able to receive that money as soon as they get that email notification of, hey, I can get the money. And it comes back to, I mean, obviously that point comes back to like the non-digital folks of like some folks just want cash or some folks just want checks. I don't know if we should be, hiring the cash only subcontractors, but those people exist. And so obviously we built in tools to support those use cases as well. We can't forget about the non-digital people quite yet.
Yeah. But it takes some of the guesswork of building the jigsaw puzzle of,
Yeah.
that game that everybody plays of money in, money out, and where's that balance? And hopefully you have enough money coming in to,
Correct.
compensate for all the stuff going out. But yeah, that's a good stress.
But it's not, I
Relief for
mean,
coming off.
Todd, also to that, like not having real-time data in construction, if I have the real-time data, I can make the adjustments I need to make in time to not lose
Mhm.
money, right?
Of
Like
course.
if I
Yeah.
knew, hey, if I knew on the Friday or if I knew on the Thursday that this change had to be made, as opposed to waiting, getting the data a week later, getting the data 2 weeks later, and then having to make the change 2 weeks later, you've already lost, right?
Yeah.
And so getting real time data, especially financial data from your bank, is critical for your business.
Yeah. No, I agree. What are some of the key considerations for construction companies when they're kind of researching, selecting, and thinking of implementing a digital finance solution?
Yeah, so I mean, fees are the biggest one. So when you're picking financial options, like I think um, you have to be careful in today's high interest rate market as well, to not be getting like really gouging loans and things like that to like finance your business. So it's like one call out. We are working on lines of credit, and we spent a lot of time thinking about that. How can we provide low interest or low rate lines of credit for customers? But when you're looking for those digital solutions, if you're looking for a digital banking solution, I think in today's technology world, look for something vertical specific, right? Look for something that is focusing on your industry specifically, and you can get on the phone with them, you can talk to them. I always say there's like a difference between customer success and sales. Like you can get sold on the product really easily and okay, you're kind of ignoring the fees. But then as soon as you're sold and you get into the application and like, what is the customer success like? How does that feel? So I think one of the big benefits of something like our system is we don't have a contract. We don't have fees. And so like, if we don't do a good job once you're in the system, you can just leave right away. There's no, you've lost whatever time, but at least you're not like locked into some contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you're looking for tools, the biggest thing is like make sure you ask them, even like project management software, ask them what their customer success process is like. Ask them if you have a dedicated rep that you can call. Do you have like a weekly check-in scheduled for the first kind of 30 days or 60 days to make sure that the system is set up properly? I think you're doing your business a service by doing that work, but also like you're helping to vet the system that you're signing up for, because it's really easy to get sold on new software. There's so much out there today, but like, what is the customer success? What does it look like after you're a customer? How much support do they give you after you're a customer? And even myself, and I'm sure you have, Todd, experienced the woes there of like, you got sold, everything sounded great, you signed the contract, and then all of a sudden you start using it and they're just ghosting you. They're gone, right? There's no
Right.
support, things are breaking, and doesn't, obviously those are you have to learn from those ones.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What do you think some of the best practices then are to ensure kind of that smooth and successful transition to a digital workflow?
Oh, in construction, I don't know. I
Yeah.
would expect that. I think you just have to go in with like medium expectations. I mean, transitioning any kind of like paper-based system is going to cause a lot of pain, and there is extra work up front, and you just kind of have to keep your eye on the light of the tunnel. But um, like for example, if let's say I'm talking to a fully paper-based business that's sending invoices, they're printing invoices out to their customers, they're putting them in envelopes, they're stamping them, walking them to the mailbox, then they wait for their customers to mail them a check. I think like we've transitioned a business like that to a digital solution, and for them, it's just been night and day. It was painful at first, getting everyone to get used to it. But at the end of it, the end customer that was having to mail the check actually
Mhm.
thanks them for upgrading the system because it's easier for them. They don't have to write the check anymore. They can open up their phone and click and pay, right? Like, so I mean, yeah, preparing like it is going to be painful at first transitioning any system, but once it's done, just keep your eye on what the results are going to be.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
talk a lot about the expected experience in construction, and it's something that there's a real dichotomy in construction in general, in that in our personal lives, we have our phones right by us all the time, and we can order something on Amazon or a pizza even, and you know every single step along the way. You can track it. You know the exact specs and all the stuff. And yet when we
yeah,
come into construction, we don't have that same
no,
technology in the same setup, but we're also not expecting it for some weird way. We like check our personal expectations kind of at the door, which is, I think, a, a fault in construction industry, that we need to raise those standards up, because people do, to your point, really appreciate when those standards get raised, and a technology company comes in and can help create the same experience on the professional side as we have in our personal lives. That makes a big difference, and that those companies really stand out as doing something really cool and helpful, not just
yeah.
innovative, but it's helpful.
And also it's important to remember that, we're in the early days of building technology for construction companies. So not everything is going to be perfect today, right? And like this is a really complex thing to build. Like you said, that like it's like ordering the Domino's pizza with with the progress tracker of them like
Yeah.
telling you every step of the way. I mean, that's extremely in construction, that is like orders of magnitude more complex to do. And so like also making sure that you provide as much feedback as you can to your technology partners. So like don't just be that like silent customer. Like things can change and you should be communicating your experience with them. I think that's how we're gonna, in a relationship based industry like this, you'd think that people would be, you know, hey, I want the app to work exactly like this and communicating all the bugs and all this kind of stuff. But they tend to like revert to treating it like an app on their phone. They don't bother calling customers. Sometimes they don't bother calling customer support because they think it's going to be like the same, bad experience. But I think not just for Truss, for our company, but any of those, innovators in the construction space, I think we are all listening. We are ready to take the feedback. We want to make the applications better. Yeah.
Matthew, I'm curious, what do you see as some of the big trends coming out of this year and really moving into the next few years out?
Yeah, so I think I mean I've seen it at conferences or even in my network is just a ton of software innovation in construction. Um, the one that I'm most excited about that I'm not working on because we're in finance, obviously, finance and banking, is the robotics stuff. I just find like so fascinating
Yeah.
and cool. So I'm pretty excited to see where that comes into play, and adding like robotics on the job site. I know there's already some of it happening, but I can kind of like picture in my mind what it'd be like building a custom home or getting a reno done on your kitchen and having like some robot dog walk in with the materials on its back or something. I don't know. Which would be pretty cool. But in relation to my business and finance, um, I think we're just working on underwriting businesses much better, especially like vertical specific. Um, I think today when you go and get a loan or you get a line of credit or a new credit card, like banks have a hard time because they're so horizontal. They have a hard time kind of underwriting construction businesses and understanding their business. And we're working really hard to say, okay, we're only working with construction. We have a unique opportunity to understand their business specifically so that we can do a better job of underwriting those businesses and giving them better rates, better loans than they would get at their traditional institution. And so we're working really hard on that. I think that's what I'm excited for, aside from the robots. um, also, there. I mean, obviously, there's a big push of AI stuff coming too. I try and avoid the hype trains. I think that I'm waiting for like the real practical stuff to come in that. Um, and I don't think we're quite there yet where like an AI can kind of like look at a picture of some construction project and then map it out. You know what I mean by that? Like, I don't think it's quite
Mm-hmm.
there on like the
Mm-hmm.
construction planning side. Um, in terms of like detecting financials with AI, like, hey, you're over budget with this project. Here's the line items that look inconsistent based on your other projects. That stuff is really interesting in the short term. But I think the long term AI of being able to like even say like, hey, this construction plan, the visualization of this doesn't make sense. When you go and build this, it's not going to work. And hopefully the architects get those tools so that they stop giving builders bad plans. Because I hear that's a common issue. So I'm hoping the architects get those tools soon.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody would be very excited
Yeah.
with that for sure. So one of the kind of core tenets of the show is centered around innovation. What does innovation mean to you?
Yeah, I think innovation is about like, I mean, for me personally, it's about failing a lot and just being okay with failing and then change and changing. I think people get stuck in their ways, and I mean, in construction, we've heard that so many times. Oh, you're just like this, you're stuck in your ways. You're stuck in your ways. And so, innovation for me is really about trying new things, maybe getting it wrong the first time, and then trying again. Um, in construction that can be expensive, so be careful, but I think that innovation for me is like, and the personal growth side of it is just like continuously try and learn and improve. And I think my commitment to the company Truss and our products is to do that. We are going to constantly try and innovate and make the system better, and we'll always be pushing for that. We'll never kind of go stale and be this like, you know if you come back a year from now, we'll have learned a whole bunch of new things and improved the product, made it better, and that's what I think it is.
Yeah, very nice. Well, how do people find out more information on Truss or connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can just Google Truss Payments and our website will come up, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Matthew Smith, Truss. And there's probably a lot of Matthew Smiths on LinkedIn, so make sure you just put Matthew Smith Truss after my name, and I'll come up. Feel free to connect with me. Would be great to meet some of the listeners. But yeah, that's how you can find us today.
Awesome. Well, final question for you. If I could give you all power and you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing, what would you choose to innovate?
Like, hold on a second here. Like, snap my fingers and do I get superpowers, or like what's the snap my finger and innovate one thing? Oh man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I grew up with Star Trek. I think like, it'd be cool if the world was more like Star Trek. You can like walk over to the computer and like just say what you want and zaps into existence. I think that would be pretty cool. I think that would be awesome, right?
Like, I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
That's a cool superpower too.
Yeah, it's a cool superpower, right? Like, you walk up to you tell the computer, "Hey, I want this," and it zaps it into existence for you. Yeah, that would be cool innovation. Not maybe probably not grounded in like the next 50 years, but maybe one day the world will be
Hey, one
electric
day, you
cars,
never know.
right? Yeah.
That's right. You never know. Well, Matthew, thanks so much for taking the time and coming on to the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Todd. Take care.